Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Dsgb Fantasy Football League Weekly Recap. I'm your host and commissioner, AST1. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and follow me if you like content like this. Let's not waste any more time and let's get into the recap. Let's start the week off by celebrating National Tight End Day. This is an annual event that supposedly originated in a Week 2 game during the 2018 season with the Lions versus the 49ers. After catching on to this special occasion, it has now become a league-wide annual celebration on the fourth Sunday in the month of October. And with that being said, here are my 2023 top 5 tight ends currently in the league. Honorable mention, we have Iowa Hawkeyes product, TJ Hawkinson. Number 5, we have Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets product, Darren Waller. Number 4, we have South Dakota St. Jackrabbits product, Dallas Goedert. Number 3, we have Iowa Hawkeyes product, George Kittle. Number 2, we have Oklahoma Sooners product, Mark Andrews. And number 1 is Cincinnati Bearcats product, Travis Kelce. Now let's go over my commissioner notes, which are the things I noticed over the weekend. Close games. From college football to professional football to fantasy football, there will always be close games. That was more than evident this week in the league. There were a few matchups that came down to the wire. Team Untouchables versus the Apocalypse, Team Harding versus Z-Boys, and Hancock County, Georgia versus Bristol Vikings, particularly Hancock versus Bristol, which was decided by 0.5 points. Damn, that hurts. Moving right along. Let's look at the top 5 performers from Week 7 in fantasy. Number 5, we have USC Trojans product, wide receiver Jordan Addison. Addison came in Monday night as wide receiver number 1 after his teammate Justin Jefferson was sidelined last week with a hamstring injury and balled out. Addison showed the league why he was drafted in the first round with the 23rd pick. He had 7 receptions on 10 targets for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Addison had 31.3 fantasy points on the day. Number 4, we have Texas Longhorns product, running back D'Onta Foreman. Foreman came to the Bears via free agency from the Carolina Panthers. Foreman finally got his opportunity, and boy did he take advantage of it. Foreman had 89 yards rushing on 16 carries, with 2 touchdowns. He also had 3 receptions on 5 targets for 31 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Foreman had 33 fantasy points on the day. Number 3, we have the Cincinnati Bearcats product, tight end Travis Kelce. Kelce had a monster day with 12 receptions on 15 targets for 179 yards and 1 touchdown. Kelce was open early and often against the Chargers. Kelce had 35.9 fantasy points on the day. Number 2, we have Louisville Cardinals product, quarterback Lamar Action Jackson. The former MVP looked sensational against the Lions on Sunday with an efficient 357 yards on 21 of 27 for 3 touchdowns. Jackson also got it done with his legs with 9 carries for 36 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Jackson had 39.6 fantasy points on the day. And number 1, we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders product, 2-time Super Bowl champion and 2-time MVP of the league, Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the league and the current gold standard, look dialed in all day long. Mahomes was wheeling and dealing the Chargers all game with his favorite target, Travis Kelce. Mahomes was 32 of 42 for 424 yards with 4 touchdowns. He even added 4 carries for 29 yards. Mahomes had 40.9 fantasy points on the day. Before we preview the Week 8 matchups, let's have our first look at the projected playoff scenario and standings. In the current standings, we have 3 teams with 5-2 records. Menace to the league, the Apocalypse, and the football team. 4 teams with a 4-3 record, NY Giants, Dream Team Redemption, Z-Boys, and Bristol Vikings. Next, we have 2 teams with 3-4 records, Hancock County, Georgia, and Summertime. Rounding out the bottom is Crimson Ballers, and Team Harding with a 2-5 record, and Team Untouchables with a 1-6 record. We are roughly at the halfway point of the season, and a push for a playoff spot is heating up. As of Week 7, Menace to the League would be the number 1 seed and have the bye week in the playoffs, followed by matchups between Dream Team Redemption versus NY Giants, Z-Boys versus the football team, and Bristol Vikings versus the Apocalypse. We have a long season to go, and a lot of things can happen between now and the playoffs. Let's see how the rest of the season plays out. Now let's look ahead at the upcoming Week 8 matchups. First, we have the 2-5 Crimson Ballers versus the 3-4 Hancock County, Georgia. Both teams are coming off a loss and looking to get back in the win column to make a push for the playoffs. Crimson Ballers had no help from his quarterback Deshaun Watson or his defense. They both got negative points for him. He will look to get the win against Hancock County, who is coming off a crushing defeat from Bristol Vikings. Hancock made some moves this week and will look for Captain Kirk to come save his season and get him to the playoffs. Next, we have the 5-2 football team versus the 4-3 NY Giants. The football team is coming off a beatdown from Dream Team Redemption, who was the high scorer of the week. The football team will look for better overall production from his team, which was 20.7 points below his season average. On the flip side, the NY Giants snapped a 3-game losing streak and beat the Crimson Ballers. He will look to extend his win streak to 2 and give the football team his first losing streak of the season. Next, we have the 4-3 Dream Team Redemption versus the 5-2 Menace to the League. Dream Team, who was the high scorer for Week 7, had a dominating win over the football team. Dream Team is currently on a 2-game winning streak and will look to extend it to 3 against Menace to the League. Menace, who snapped a 2-game losing streak, pulled out a win over Summertime last week, with Golden Boy Christian McCaffrey coming up in the clutch to secure his win. Menace will need all hands on deck against Dream Team, who seems to be hitting on all cylinders. Next, we have the 4-3 Bristol Vikings versus Team Harding, who is 2-5. Bristol Vikings got the narrow win versus Hancock County, Georgia. Bristol Vikings is quietly on a 3-game winning streak and will look to extend it against Team Harding, who also suffered a narrow loss to Z-Boys. Team Harding will look to right the ship and derail Bristol Vikings' redemption tour. Next, we have the 3-4 Summertime versus the 1-6 Team Untouchables. Summertime, who was in the catbird seat until Monday night and got C-Mac'd against Menace to the League. Summertime, who is currently on a 2-game losing streak, will look to get back in the win column against Team Untouchables, who has dropped the last 2 games since his win over Hancock County, Georgia. Team Untouchables will look to turn things around and get into the win column and finish the season strong. And finally, we have the 4-3 Z-Boys versus the Apocalypse, who is 5-2. Z-Boys, who got a narrow win last week from Team Harding, will look to extend his win streak to 2 games and continue his push for the playoffs. On the other side, we have the Apocalypse, who is quietly and systematically on a 3-game win streak and one of the league managers vying for the #1 seed. The Apocalypse got almost half his point from Patrick Mahomeboy in his win over Team Untouchables. He will look to stay hot and extend his win streak to 4. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoy this content. Comment below who you think will win their matchup this week. Until next time, AST1 signing off.